Are there any other questions? All right. Let's move on with the show. Bob, introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm from another world. Uh, I came into fourth because it goes all the way to mint, and that and I come from well, I was in visual psychophysics actually back in the 70s, and mainly working on a PDP-8, which gave me an appreciation when I learned of fourth, just how much time I'd wasted on the PDP-8, not being as brilliant as Chuck. But I uh, I learned APL, and what I needed to understand in understanding well, the patterns on 250,000 fibers in the optic nerve, for instance, was APL, was arrays, and of course now everything that's the fundamental, that's the basis of AI. But so I created first CoSy in the well, actually, it goes back to when the only resource I had was the CDC 6400 at Northwestern. Had to get out resumes when I lost my tenure in grad school because I learned APL and could write a definitional Fourier transform in one line. Um, but in any case, to I always was frustrated by the fact that you had the APL, the language as defined by even the brilliant minds at IBM and a number of groups now dialogue since, but and K by Arthur Whitney, which simplified things and was transparent and so forth. But the thing is, I want to live my life in CoSy. You might note that I've been taking notes of of these talks up so far. So this is the only demo I think and that I've seen that actually is running in fourth. And I wake up in the morning and I put down a day line like this, F12. Oh, I should hit F1. It's got those are all the function keys that I have. And there's a toss up between F6, which evaluates the line and then puts its result up in this window here, and F11, which puts down a timestamp, and F12, which makes one of these day lines. But everything is just simply text, which is it's just electronic paper.
Oh, come on.
But was somebody saying something, or that's anyway? So yeah, here are my notes, and this is the thing: is I live my life in fourth. All of this is executing directly in Riva fourth. And one thing I wanted to do is this, that you can see. These are all CoSy fourth processes and windows that are going on. And I made a screenshot here, and you might have noticed F8 goes and opens a window. I actually made a small picture, but one of the things I've been working on is my accounts. And these four lines here go and pick my account tables, which are evolved from K in fourth in CoSy, pick those out of the directories that got my 2025 accounts in, pulls them out, and and formats them nicely. And so here I've got all of my different credit card accounts and PayPal account and so forth right there. So that's what I mean. The whole point to me is to make something that is useful, and it's not Python. And as a matter of fact, Python, you know, uh, anybody who wants to do something in Python, who's tempted, who's got something where you can't, you're going to use Python instead of Forth, drop me a note. We can work together and get it done probably faster than you can get it done in Python, in CoSy, and you'll be in Forth in all open code in Forth. So anyway, here's my title of the quotidian use. Quotidians, maybe Brits know that word, but actually I see there's a quotidian pan in Central Park now, so the word's getting more use. But I learned it from Stephen Taylor, who's lives in London and is he's done an awful lot in APL and in K. But one point is to have an environment with flexibility that's not possible through menus. You need language, but the language has to be succinct. And you have to be able to just write a line down like you'll see and get the useful task that you need done. Like these few lines to go and pull up all of my different accounts. And the target is not techies. It's ordinary people. And if you go and you look at my Vita, which is linked on the first page of CoSy, you'll see the when I first got CoSy done when it got an pure APL on a PC, very ordinary people. I mean, some were like head of mergers and acquisitions for Citibank in Latin America, but also, well, I'll leave it to that one top actuary, but also, um, uh, well, just look at the list of early purchasers of CoSy. That's the market. And that's a potentially very large market because there is, again, what's your alternative? For Python, you got to go off into some separate editor to go and do that. You don't just have a notebook where you can just write down a line and execute it if, in the language, and it'll either bomb or do what you want. And one of the sorts of things, and this is a little bit off, but I find it quite useful. And I'm hitting F8 to go and that's one of the keys, one of the few defined keys. But I started going and because I go and make comments on different accounts, I have a few lines in this my daily blog. I'm not going to bother pulling that up right now, but it's all the code is there. The whole mechanism. But I've only got like a few lines to go and convert the URLs, which I just write down in CoSy, to convert those to links that'll open in another window. Again, it's one. This is a little bit of the sort of thing that's a lot of CoSy is about enhancing, artificially aiding my intelligence, and a lot of that is a matter of just memory. because particularly now that I've turned 80, I know there's going to be some. I mean, I might turn into a Biden. Um, but it's interesting, this whole thing with Comey, and this, if everybody see this stuff about the seashells, 8647. Well, I saw some note that that is in fact actually the 15th was 80, 8647 days since 9/11. Um, that was
Can
one
we
of the.
move on from this topic and get back
Okay,
into things related to?
moving. Um, but it is necessary to have a tight coupling between the interface and the language, and that's through being openly written and commanded in the language itself. And one click up, I wanted to hit F8 on that. One point that I want to make. These are quotes at the beginning. I've got all tons of comparison with Python and so forth. Um, but and quotes on simplicity, like Chuck. I've gone to some lengths to simplify. Um, But one of the points, actually, from a guy named Alan Perlis, who you may have, old time guy, it's better to have 100 functions operating on one data structure than 10 functions on 10 data structures. And I'd say the same thing is sort of true in having 100 minds working on one piece of software than 10 minds working on 10 different pieces of software. And um, one of the things, clarity of thought through brevity, and Ken, actually, this came from a comment that you made in minimalist computing. So turning the word swap into just the dollar sign, and if I execute that, that actually goes and is 4 times, saves you a factor of 4 every time you use that. And it actually, an APL, boy, they've got a complex thing. But also the whole point of iterators, and these are some of the most important um, um, uses of oh, didn't want to, wrong key. I wanted to hit F6 and just execute that. Actually, this is a window that I've got here. But these are the essential words that give you the power of APL, and they're words that turn loops, a paragraph long loop, into simply the address of a verb and then into a simple phrase. So these turns paragraphs into sentences, and they're most fundamental sort of loops, each each on a pair of items, each on a single item on top of stack, each on the top stack and next under, and work across. And of course, everything is a list in CoSy. So getting down, this is the end of the points. I just want to point out that on I've been take a look at Techie Dome, which has got, well, one of the things is I list recent, well, all the fourth talks and so forth are on here, but I've recently been on LinkedIn, going and responding Dialogue APL, which is the most competitive global APL group. But I've been going and responding showing what the CoSy is that corresponds to the APL, which has gotten terminally complex, confounding syntax and semantics. And now I've actually gone to using Claude. I added this note earlier in LinkedIn CoSy every day. For instance, actually, if I go to whoops, hitting the wrong key. But look at these, and it gives a comparison. It shows that if you're given the fact that CoSy, needs to move to be interfaced, change of interface and so forth. But in terms of the language, it's quite very competitive with traditional APL. This most recent one, for instance, goes and this whole complex expression gets turned into just, well, the fourth that's doing it is just that expression right there. Finally, I'll have a plug that to get CoSy becoming the language community and so forth. It can be right now for first people, because you're not going to be involved in CoSy unless you're, getting into the language. There's some incentive to get in there together. And my final few things, actually, this job, whoops, yeah, started. This is my notes on CoSy, and actually one of the things that I noticed, and I started trying
Bob,
to.
I wonder how is it you organize them overall? Like, what is the structure of your notes? Do you just sort of make an entry and linearly plot them down, or what's
It's interesting in the first CoSy in the 80s. One of the first things that I did is the name of any, I even back then, I named him Jobs after Steve, in honor of Steve. But um, although he screwed up the Macintosh, but I I just had it so that you put a cursor on any name, and you hit I think it was the F9 key I had then, and it opened that window, that job. And it was multi-windowed at that time, even before Windows. But also I would get, when articles came out describing what hypertext was, I duplicated those to try to explain what this structure was. But I mean, in a sense, it's fundamentally, and this is the thing is, some of the short things that need to be done on CoSy is, one, make it so that the parsing, so it'll just parse the word under the cursor instead of executing the line. But by the way, there's this little tick here, which of course you have the standard quote in fourth, which is just brilliant, because instead of executing the word, it returns the address of that word, so that can be handed to a verb following, and that's what all these iterators do. They all take a
Bob?
matter.
Bob, but back to the structure thing. Like, I'm still not quite getting like what's I often see you scroll through a large chunk of stuff. Like, what's the actual organ? Do you have some organization principle to it, or what?
Actually, yeah. Well, for instance, when I execute this, whoops, execute. Oh, I guess uh, I just have the names and I have start jobs. And one of the things is I noticed that Jim Harrison and Joseph, I got to thank you for early support of CoSy, and I'm trying to organize a bunch of that. But fundamentally, it's just, actually not too bad this is, they're just in general, um, they're just other processors like, well, for instance, work log is actually where I go and I do most of my development and so forth. So it's got uh, all of when I work through things and make a new word and I want to add it to I know this is smaller, I didn't, but here's the list of all the scripts that make up CoSy, all the fourth scripts. So if I want to go and work on any of them, um, well, I take its name.
I,
I can go through, but essentially, it's just that these are files. I mean,
so you're using files, but then and what about for your journal? Like, is that one big file, or do you break them out into? It looks like you break them out a little by
it's a
individual.
it's a these are well when I start in the morning when I get up in the morning, um, my main job. I thought that's my mailing lists. Job was uh yeah, this is although I hope you can't read it, is my main log, and it goes back to but they're all well, CSWAT files, they're all fourth, um they're loaded by the fourth. They're it's just that they're the IUP interface. I evolved this three window structure actually under K, where I have essentially a log. I have the fixed sorts of things. And for instance, one of the things is, and again, I'm not, I think you can just see the form of it. But here actually are all these different jobs that I work on, work log and presentations, which I'm in right now, and the blog that I put things in, and accounts 2025, 2024, other things, notes on physics. So they're all just separate individual um, fourth, um, yeah, essentially it starts a fourth process. They each have individual fourth processes, actually. I mean, here's actually these are all the underlying DOS fourth processes, and you'll see under each one of these, you've got a fourth process. Now in KCozy, which this evolved from, um, I actually had everything in one big tree. Um, so you were in a subdirectory under a subdictionary, to use, I think, a good term. Um, um, but one of the things is that got to be 30 meg. And I find actually, so these are not hierarchical except in their naming, in a sense. The only hierarchy is their hierarchy in terms of the directory process that they're under. Is that your question? Is that
Yeah,
is,
yeah. Okay. And so
yeah.
do you, but I mean, like, how do you, when you're capturing something, say, from this meeting, like what, you know, I assume you have these going back for years? Like, is it all in one file or what's the,
Oh no. That's actually a rather interesting question because it again that's very uh and since but one of the things that I have uh every line essentially these are all lines, but here oh, let me go and just copy this over into here. This is one of the things is make this bigger. But here I have a list of all of my text every year. I'll go and clone off the text and so forth. And actually, I more recently made this line here, which generates, if I execute this line, it generates that whole list with the full paths to all of these. And then a line down here. Oh, for instance, actually, well, Jim Harrison is one of the people. Uh, if I execute this line and then,
See,
actually,
I see. So
let me,
you've got one per year. Is that the convention?
I clone off my log every year.
So you,
And I mean, just for, I mean, in general, and I've got them linked up at the top,
I see.
but really, I mean, here's New Year's, and this goes to 25, this is 2000, 25/01/01.
I
So
see.
this is my notes for the year. And then going forward, and again, actually, thank you for these questions. I can make, I've got a word here. Um, can't really see it, but it's daylines is the word. And this is sitting here. Whenever I see I've made daylines through or October, but I just can. This is one of the advantages of just simple electronic paper, just text. I mean, it's notebook paper that's the competition and something that is so simple that a CEO can understand it. Or Rafael Vinez, who worked at Citibank. He had a system sitting behind him on the credenza behind him that Citibank had given him as his executive tool. Well, he got CoSy because it was trivial but at the same time, it was deep. So it's that sort of thing. But if I put in here, for instance, on this line, all I have to do is I've got this line here, which is day line cut and so forth, and essentially it's looping through each of these. But if I put HB, because I feed here are well, for instance, I'll copy this over so you can see it. Um, and if I just execute a blank line here, it'll empty that out.
I see.
Somewhere I mentioned, where's it? Somehow or other, that must have gotten a full. Oh, HB refill. Okay. Oh, that was last. That was the first refill for a hummingbird. I've got a hummingbird feeder sitting right out there. So I've got my records of essentially all my hummingbird refills um, on yeah. Um,
So if I
any case,
may just briefly ask you to
yeah.
reach a break
I
point in time to give Ken a couple of minutes to do his demo.
Yeah. No, I think actually I've gotten through. One final point. And this is something serious. I've used Composer over the years, which is a simple but um, written by the same guy who did Factor, I believe. But early on, Composer is a WYSIWYG, a simple WYSIWYG, but actually it's got tables and all of that. It's been a simple WYSIWYG HTML editor, but it's not supported anymore, long since. And for some reason, apparently it's SSH5, the security protocol it no longer recognizes, so it's become unusable. I mean, I do complex editing I do in CoSy, but nothing beats WYSIWYG in terms of going and actually composing a web page. And if anybody's got a simple WYSIWYG editor, I've been really bothered by failing to do that. But this is one of the things is the highest necessary thing to get done in CoSy is to and actually, I did send a note to. I know I included you, Brad, and the groups behind G4th, which I find I actually have on my smartphone. But to go and have an interface that is through standard browser stuff, then can also start looking at having WYSIWYG editing on it. Anyway, oh, this is something neat that actually came from the earlier stuff which taught me about curl. I now have turned saving and uploading any of these jobs up to, or the text from them, or like, but the blog, and turned that into just a couple of lines, just a line using curl. And now I've just gone and learned how to download things. So I'm going to be automating the downloading of my accounts and so forth too. But anybody who wants to get involved, I mean, if you know any other environment in the entire world, I mean, again, this was immediately compared to Evernote, which got about close to 300 million in venture funding. The first thing is, okay, what do we do the first 6 months? And how much is it going to take? Because if you believe Forth is actually, and I believe it, the most powerful computing environment, particularly when you have it open, all the way from the level of APL and K and so forth, all the way to the machine, uniquely and only possible in Forth. That's what the game is. So I think that get this and contact me. Look at the whole deal on alphas, and let's knock off Python. Let's stomp on that snake, and I'll hit a F11, save everything, and yeah. Any further discussion or contact me, by email. I don't answer phone numbers that I don't recognize, which is almost all of them. But Ken, I hope you notice that dollar sign, that use of dollar sign now.
What's your email?
What?
What is your email?
Bob at CoSy.com, which now is approaching, I first got in 1996. So you can see it's accreted over an awful long time.
Did you say that you were that you created a fast Fourier transform in one line and that sort of booted you out or something like that?
Look at if you look back on CoSy at my logo, I'm trying to think. Actually,
Can we
if you
table this story? We have
logo,
time pressing on. We're now in
yeah.
double extended overtime, and if Brad is kind enough to give us another 5 minutes for Ken's demo, I'd like to go to that at this time.
Okay. Definitely. Let me sign
Unshare, please.
anyway, you can find that and actually that'd be nice to do in CoSy. That to do, well, actually I want to do a fast Fourier transform. And I think it was one of Golden's talks that clued me where he used Claude. Oh, by the way, Claude and Grok go and they're incredible. They're better than I am at parsing dialogue APL. And essentially what they do is they turn it into RPN. they go and undo what all the parsing is. So here's what it is, step by step by step, which of course is RPM.
Bob.
But
Hello,
they make a
Bob.
lot of
What part
mistakes.
of stop talking is hard?
Well, look at I turned off my screen.
I appreciate it. Now, Ken, you up?